Braving the cold and the train strikes, a dozen activists gather in Paris for a protest. Members of France's Uyghur Association have come out to condemn the government repression in China's Xinjiang region.
It's our ethnicity. It's our land. It belongs to the Uyghurs. Long live East Turkestan.
Fighting for independence in northwestern China. But they may never see their homelands or their families ever again.
It's been almost a year since I last heard from my family. I haven't been able to reach them by phone, nor through social media. I don't know whether they're dead, alive, or in a concentration camp.
My mother was sent to a camp in April 2018, and she came out a year later. That's all I know. No other news.
Merdan Mehmet is a refugee and spokesperson for the Uyghurs living in France. But although he's several thousands of miles away from home, Beijing is keeping a close eye on the French-based community.
We received threats from the Chinese government.
Here in France?
Yes, in France. Chinese police asking Uighurs here to send them information about themselves and asking them to spy on each other.
Merdan takes us to a young Uyghur. She's been living in Paris for almost 10 years, has French citizenship, but has asked to remain anonymous. A few months ago, she received a call from her mother begging her to contact the police. She called them and recorded the conversation. Requests that turned more and more invasive.
The Chinese police asked me to send them my work contract, my lease, and the diplomas I obtained here in France. If I were married, they would have asked for my marriage certificate.
Why did you send them the documents?
Because they held my family hostage. I was worried they would hurt them if I refused to comply.
Re-education camps have been cropping up in Xinjiang over the past 3 years, and family ties have proved an efficient way of silencing or manipulating the Uyghur diaspora. Adili and his family settled far away from Paris several years ago, but he's been living alone for 2 years now.
This photo was taken a year before my wife and my daughter disappeared. It was taken on my daughter's birthday.
It all began when they received a phone call from his mother-in-law.
She told us she was very ill and that we should return to China. I told her that I couldn't go back, but my wife went. As soon as she landed, she was stopped by police. Then they called me to tell me that I had to return as well, or else they'd send my whole family to prison.
Adili stood his ground and hasn't heard back from his family since. But the Chinese authorities have been in touch.
They asked me questions. They wanted to know more about the Uyghur community. I asked them why I should tell them, and they said, all that has happened to your family might be a mistake. If you cooperate, perhaps we can review your case. If it sounds good to you, then it can work for us too. But I refused.
Adili's now seeking asylum in France. He's confused about the whole situation. But for Merdan Mehmet, it all makes sense.
The Chinese government wants to break any trust within the Uyghur community. And that's pretty much what is happening within the diaspora. It's stopping us from fighting oppression together.
A strategy that's paid off, as most Uyghurs living in Europe prefer to keep a low profile, as they hope to maintain the little contact they have with their families back home.